What's up, you guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. So as you can tell by the title, I will be going back and forth doing some pluses and minuses of this new Studio Series 86 liter class Soundwave compared next to the Siege Voyager class mold as well as the Earthrise Walmart exclusive Voyager class mold. So without further ado, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty of this video, people. So first up, let's compare this new 86 figure to the Siege mold. Obviously the colors are more accurate, the paint apps is a lot more animation accurate. The Siege figure had that weird greebling detail, or not greebling, well, it does have that, but the battle damage paint on it is not present on the 86 figure, which is obviously a lot better looking and more accurate. I think the battle damage paint would have looked better on the Siege figure if it was spread around evenly and not on selected parts to make it look weird because they wanted to save money on paint, but I digress. Obviously it doesn't have all the extra greebling details on the body like the Siege one did, and the weapons are more accurate. Obviously he doesn't transform into Cybertronian ship. The forearms are not ugly and hollow this time around. He actually has wrist swivel and hand articulation, and he's not stuck with two jack-off hands, and one of the hands has his pointer finger slightly sticking out permanently because of the whole gimmick with his chest, which is still prevalent on the new figure. That seems like something that they kept in terms of similar engineering, which is fine. They really didn't need to change anything there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing. So that's fine. The backpack is a lot more accurate because you don't have the extra junk from the Cybertronian ship like you did on the Siege figure. And it looks like the articulation is going to be better. Like I said, he has wrist swivel, hand articulation. Looks like he has an intentional butterfly joint on that new SS86 figure, which is fantastic. I'm loving that they're integrating more butterfly joints on these newer figures, especially for leader class. You know, if you're paying that premium price of 60-70 bucks nowadays, you got to be getting premium engineering and articulation, and it seems like they're at least maybe trying to make butterfly joints the norm going forward, which would be nice. I hope so. I really do hope that's the case, because, you know, for what you're paying, that should be the norm. Overall, I'd say Siege versus SS86, definitely Studio Series 86. It doesn't have the 5mm ports, kind of ruining the aesthetic of the overall body frame. Obviously, you can't even compare the vehicle modes because they're two totally different things, going for two totally different vibes and aesthetics, if you will. So yeah, I mean, I think the head sculpt is more accurate. The forearms don't have the spaceship junk hanging off of it. So yeah, overall, just such a massive improvement compared to that Voyager class figure from 6 years ago. And now let's move on to the Earthrise figure, the infamous release that virtually nobody was able to find back in 2020 as a Walmart exclusive during the War for Cybertron Netflix subline for Walmart. And I was lucky enough to get this figure December of 2020, like a week or two before Christmas. Went out with my mom to Walmart, and I just look in, you know how they have those specialized aisles in Walmart for Christmas for like toys and stuff around that time. I went through one of those aisles, and there was just like 10 Earthrise Soundwave figures just sitting on the shelf, and I just grabbed one, and I was so happy to get that figure. Still a good figure, but when you go into this release 5-6 years later, by the time this new leader class comes out, it is almost night and day. Now, I've seen some people comparing these two and actually liking the Earthrise figure more because he's, I guess, a bit more stylized looking. The colors aren't as bright and cheap looking, which I will say that's kind of a downside with this new 86 liter class. I said this a couple days ago when the figure first got leaked, but the colors in the overall palette that they chose for this makes it look cheap. It looks like an Earthspark deluxe class Soundwave sort of thing, and not a $60-$70 mainline Studio Series leader class, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the major downsides about this figure. I do actually prefer the color scheme of this Earthrise figure compared to the 86 one, but overall, again, I think it is night and day. Yeah, this is something that, okay, yeah, I definitely, yeah, I prefer the new body frame. The backpack is a little, it juts a little outward too much, but I think that's to store the guns as actual batteries in his cassette player mode. I could be wrong on that, but that's what it looks like it does if you look at the 360 video. So I actually do prefer, now that I looked at the 360 video, I do prefer the overall body frame of the new one. And now if you look at the cassettes, I didn't talk about the cassettes with the Siege figure because they were sold separately, and they're also basically the exact same as the Earthrise cassettes here. So I would say, in terms of the actual cassette modes, that the overall shape and paint and sculpt of the Earthrise versions are superior. It looks a lot more solid. They actually look a lot more like cassettes. If you remember with Ravage, there was actually paint detailings that you would actually see on a real-life cassette, which was really cool to see with that figure back then, and it's still really cool now, especially since that's super absent on this new Ravage release. There's barely any paint on these new cassettes at all, and especially since Soundwave barely has any paint on himself. You would expect for a leader class figure that's now $60, $70 due to these price hikes that they would want to paint up these cassettes just as good as these Voyager class releases from 5 years ago, or even better considering you're paying a whopping extra $20-something more than you were during 2020 and 2021 for this set. It's kind of strange to me. I think they dropped the ball in terms of the cassette modes and the paint for these for Soundwave's minions here. I really do feel like that. But the robot modes, I really gotta say, they did make a better improvement. You know, Ravage actually has a tail. He actually has his rocket launchers this time around. He's a bit more proportionate. Still not perfect to the animation model, and he still doesn't look as menacing as he should, but a much better improvement than the one we got in 2020. And you look at Laserbeak, not a lot much improved, but I do think the overall angles and body shape is a bit more cartoon accurate than the one we got during 2020. And of course now for Buzzsaw, which again kind of random he's in here because he didn't appear in the 86 movie, but either way I'm glad we're getting him. But I will say it is kind of cheap that they included him here because it's kind of just a simple repaint to Laserbeak, and you know, this is a new mold and you're not really getting exactly your full money's worth. I think it should have been Rumble or Frenzy as a new mold to really kind of push the whole bang for your buck in getting a completely new thing here, but I don't know, it is what it is. But overall, Buzzsaw, I'd say he's a very much improved release compared to, what was it, the Legacy United one we got a year ago or something. So yeah, I'd say overall this is a big improvement for G1 Soundwave. Again, not perfect. I think there's some issues that this figure might have, but we're gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments below, what do y'all think about this new Leader Class 86 Soundwave? Do you think it's better than the previously released Siege and Earthrise figures, or do you not? And yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!